And joining us from Washington is national security analyst John Rossomando to discuss the latest developments related to the United States economy. Thank you, sir, for joining us here on the Economic Bulletin on Qnews.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Let's start off by asking President Trump attributed the recent 0.3% economic contraction to companies stockpiling ahead of tariffs. From an economic standpoint, how accurate or justified is this explanation?
Well, I think that the president is looking at what the companies are adjusting to the economic landscape that the president is creating as a result of his tariffs, so they hedge in cheaper prices ahead of the tariffs.
Okay, what about Trump's claims that nearly $8 trillion in total unannounced investments have been made since his return, with $2 trillion in recent pledges? How should we interpret these numbers in terms of an actual economic impact and business confidence in general?
Well, I think that it's too soon to figure out what the overall impact of the American economy will be with these $8 trillion investments, because it takes sometimes a few quarters to have the overall impact on the overall economy. But right now, the economy is absorbing the tariffs, and once things become more predictable for companies, it will stabilize.
Okay, so what risks or benefits do you see in Trump's proposed tariff wall targeting pharmaceutical companies operating in the U.S.? Could this lead to price increases for consumers?
Well, I mean, you're going to see cost pass the consumer, but President Trump's strategy here is to encourage reindustrialization and the rebuilding of the American industrial base that has been sapped by 30 years of unfair trade practices. We're looking at the struggle with China militarily. The U.S. does not have the industrial base that it needs for its security. So these tariffs are aimed at encouraging production inside the United States and to onshore the supply chain.
So the plan is basically that in the short term it might hurt, but on the long run it'll improve, U.S. industry in general.
That's the hope. I mean, we've been following a so-called free trade policy since the late 1980s, and as a result, we don't produce anything. President Trump wants to be able to rebuild our shipping industry, rebuild our manufacturing, and to provide jobs for Americans. So if you have, and that might also lead to companies that are currently offshore moving their operations inside the United States to get around the tariffs.
Well, since we're talking long term here, Trump also floated the idea of cutting grants to universities like Harvard. How could this move affect long term innovation and the economy's knowledge base?
Well, let's put it this way. Harvard has nearly 60 billion with a B endowment, so surely Harvard can afford to fund its own research and development. And also, Harvard has been providing Chinese individuals with know-how that they've taken back to China. And we've had issues related to espionage. So I think the president is trying to say that the United States government shouldn't be in the business of subsidizing elite institutions that don't need welfare.
Okay, what about recent labor data? It showed a rise in unemployment claims, possibly linked to the tariffs. Are we seeing the early effects of protectionist policies filtering into the job market?
Well, I think that, like we said before, you're going to have some short-term pain for long-term gain. I think the thing is whenever you have a new issue hit the economy, it takes a while for it to absorb, but ultimately it will shoot back as the economy reaches a new equilibrium.
Okay, now, one of the other big things is the U.S. Ukraine minerals deal. and it's framed as both an economic and strategic investment. How significant is it economically for the US, and how might it influence investor confidence when it comes to places like conflict zones?
Again, the United States is always looking eastward to China. China has a corner on the world's rare earths, and President Trump is looking for a way for the United States to generate economic revenue to support our reindustrialization effort. And Ukraine has it. I don't know if this will have any impact on getting Vladimir Putin to stop the war, but from an economic standpoint, it makes sense for the United States, and also gives Ukraine a benefit for its economy.
Okay, from Washington, that was a national security analyst, John Rossomando. Thank you for your insights, and thank you for joining us here on Q.